Okay, Mr. James. So, what I understand is that you come to me today because you have some issues with smelling on your right side. You say that there's, you can smell things normally on your left side, but on your right side, it's very weak, right? So what I'm going to do today is I have a variety of objects, strong smelling objects. It's going to be chocolate, lemon, coffee grinds, you know. I'm going to be taking these at random while you have your eyes closed. I'm going to have you cover one of your nostrils, and then I'm going to put this up to your nose, have you smell it. Then I'm going to have you tell me what you think it is, okay? So close your eyes, cover your right nostril, and take this object right here, put it underneath your left nostril, and I want you to tell me what it is. Okay? So I'm going to take another object, and then put it underneath your, I want you to cover your left nostril, and I'm going to put it underneath your right nostril, okay? And tell me what it is, to the best of your ability. Okay? So, with our patient James here, he says he has an issue with his ability to smell on his right side, and that's because he has a lesion in his olfactory nerve, ipsilateral. With cranial nerves, they typically present, any lesion to the cranial nerve will present ipsilateral. So, if he was to have a lesion on the left side, it would present to the left side. If it was bilateral, then he would lose both ability to smell. And for the most part, with olfactory lesions, it's not a complete loss of smell, it's just very reduced. And it typically occurs from mainly from blunt force trauma or a frontal lobe tumor or meningitis. Okay, Mr. James. So today we're just going to be performing some visual tests for you. Basically, first of all, I want you to come to this line right here, and then just stand straight up. Put on any glasses or contacts you have. If you already have them on, just keep them on. And then you see this chart right here on the opposite side of the wall. I want you to cover one of your eyes like so, and try to read the lowest line that you can, okay? Just read off the entire line to me, okay? So let's cover your right eye first, and just read off the chart for me, okay? And do the same with your left eye. Okay, after you sit back down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you put your hands like so and just cut your face in half. And I'm going to take this flashlight and just check your eye reflex, okay? So I'm just going to be flashing a flashlight in your eye, just very briefly, okay? So, like so. Let's assume this is his hand, so I'll be taking this flashlight, click. Okay, same here. Okay. Now, last test, I want you to look at this pen, and I want you to just follow it follow it with your eyes, and only your eyes. Try not to move your head at all, okay? Now, are you ready? Okay, thank you. So, I performed 3 different tests, and in each of these tests, I was testing for a specific cranial nerve, or I was testing for different cranial nerves. So for the first test, I was using a Snellen chart that is a theoretical Snellen chart that has a number on the side, and each number has a line with correspondingly smaller letters and fonts. And basically what that tells me is there any lesion in this optic nerve, which is cranial nerve 2? So basically, I would be able to tell if there's a problem with the left or right side, just based on his ability, where he read in a line and if it was correct. So if, for example, he read at the lowest line on the left side, but then he was probably third biggest on the right, then that would indicate to me that there's something on his right side. However, if, let's say, he read on the third line for both of his eyes, and the normal baseline is 4, then that would indicate to me that there is a bilateral problem with his optic nerves. Because again, as I mentioned before in the cranial nerve 1, most lesions in the cranial nerve will always present ipsilaterally. So if it was bilateral, then there was a problem with both his optic nerves. The next test I performed was with a flashlight, where I essentially was checking for his concentric and pupillary reflexes, which are the afferent and efferent reflexes of the eyes, done by the optic and ocular motor. The optics will do the afferent pupillary reflex, while the ocular motor, cranial number 3, will perform the concentric. And what that basically entails is when I cut his face in half like so, and I take a flashlight just from the side and going in and out, is the eye that I'm flashing the eye in should constrict. And then the same thing should happen right here without the flashlight. So by constricting with the flashlight, that would tell me that the optic nerve was intact. And then if there's constriction on the opposite side, or I'm sorry, this is going to be the pupillary reflex with the flashlight. And then there should be constriction on the other side, which would tell me that the ocular motor was also intact, giving me that concentric efferent reflex. So I would do it on both sides, check for the nerves on both sides. If there was an issue with the optic nerve, say on the right side, then when I would do this would not, the right side would not constrict the light, but the left side would, the concentric reflex. And then if there was a problem with the ocular motor reflex, if I was to do this, the optic nerve would have its pupillary reflex kick in, constricting this eye, but the left side would not constrict. If it was bilateral, you would not see constriction at all. If it was bilateral, you would not be able to tell with just one eye alone. You would have to test both sides. So I would not be able to tell if the optic nerve is intact on the opposite side of the flashlight just with this test alone. I would have to do this on the other side as well to check both nerves. The final test I did was just to see the eye's ability to track object in motion. I was testing for the ocular motor, the trochlea, and the abducens, which is the 3rd, the 4th, and the 6th. So with ocular motor, your eye should be able to go up, down, and to the middle, like so. With abducens, as the name implies, you should be able to go laterally. And with trochlea, it should be able to go down and in, so adduct and down. Basically, if there was a lesion in any of these nerves, you would see that the eye or the pupil would struggle and not go to that direction. So, for instance, if I was testing for abducens and I went laterally like so, then this eye right here would not be able to follow if there was a right-sided lesion to the abducens. While if I went down and in, if there was let's say there was a left-sided trochlear lesion, this side would not be able to follow going in, but this side would. And then same thing if I was just go straight up, and let's say there's an ocular motor issue on the right side, this one would not be able to go all the way. This would not go up, but this one would. If there's a bilateral, then say for instance if I just went downwards, then neither of them would follow, like so. Okay, Mr. James, I'm just going to be performing some tests on you today. So what I need you to do is close your eyes. I'm going to be stroking the soft tip pen across your face a couple times, and I just want you to tell me if you feel it or not, okay? So, yes, 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 and yes. Now, if you can open your eyes, we'll take the same pen, and we're going to slowly bring it to your eyes, and I want you to close your eyes like normal whenever you do, okay? So, coming in, okay? Coming in, right here, okay. Now, I want you to clench your jaw, like so, and I'm just gonna feel the muscles on your face. What are you doing that, okay? So right here, 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 and here. So, with this test, I was testing the trigeminal nerve. And the reason why I did it 3 times was because the trigeminal nerve branches into 3 different branches. The ophthalmic up here, the maxillary up here, the mandibulary right here. So since trigeminal does both sensation and motor, to check his sensation, I took a soft And I could have done both soft and hard, but for this it's on soft. I took a soft pen and I rubbed it on both sides of his face on each aspect of the branch. So ophthalmic up here, maxillary up here, mandible right here. A lesion to the trigeminal nerve at any of these branches would present with no sensation. So if I was to do this and they had a lesion on the right side in the ophthalmic branch, they would not be able to feel anything and they would not say anything. Next, I just checked his afferent pupillary, or his corneal reflex, excuse me, and that just allows you, it's just a reflex to tell you when to close your eyes, when something gets too close to your eyes. So once it gets closer to those eyelashes, it should automatically close to protect the eyes and the pupil and everything inside. Finally, I checked the motor aspect by just clenching your jaws and checking those muscles. The masseter right here, checking both sides to see if they're contracting, and the temporalis, which starts at the temporal fossa, goes all the way down. It's underneath the zygomatic arch, inserts right here. Again, if there was a lesion in the trigeminal nerve, then you would not be able to feel these muscles contracting on either side. So if it was ipsilateral on the right side, then there might be weakness in the mandible. Excuse me. If all these muscles are innervated by the mandibular branch of the trigeminal nerve. So if there was a lesion in the mandibular branch, then you would not feel contraction in these temporalis or masseter. And you're trying to clench your jaw like so. Okay, Mr. James. So if you could, I need you to bring your eyebrows up to the ceiling as high as you can without moving your head. Good. Now I need you to puff your cheeks out like you're blowing in a balloon. Okay. Now give me the biggest grin you can get. That's a really good grin. Okay, thank you. Now, for this test, I was testing for cranial nerve 7, which is the facial nerve. It has both motor and sensory aspects, but for this portion of the test, I only did a motor test. And basically what I was looking for was symmetry, since I could tell in a unilateral lesion, there will be droopage, or like no symmetry on one side. So on initial look, I was looking for any facial droopage. And then once I noticed that there was no facial droopage, then I checked to see if everything was still symmetrical. So I checked to see if the eyebrows still raised up at the same level, if the cheeks puffed out at the same level, and if the grin was at the same level. And essentially what I was doing was, because all those facial muscles are innervated by the facial nerve, I was checking to see if they're all functional. There was also something I forgot to mention when I was testing for a trigeminal nerve with the blink reflex, which involved me taking something and just kind of bringing it up to the eye and invoking the eye to blink before I touched the eye itself. And basically, with the trigeminal nerve, that was the afferent reflex. But for the facial nerve, that would be the efferent, which would cause the blinking. The trigeminal is the one that's sending the signal for the facial nerve to blink. Okay, Mr. James, so today I'm just going to do some auditory tests with you right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my fingers and I'm just going to rub it against each of your ears. And I want you to tell me if you can hear it or not, okay? So I'm going to do it on your left side. Tell me if you can hear it. Yes? Okay. How about the right side? Yes? Okay. So this test was a test for the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is the cranial nerve number 8. It is a sensory nerve, and if there was a unilateral lesion, it would present on the same side. And basically what I was testing for is to see if there was any issues with the ability for his ear to bring that auditory information to his brainstem. And you know, there could be a multitude of reasons. It could be something with his inner ear, his nerve, or it could just be the entire cortex itself. There could be a problem with the cortex. And there could also be just like impacted earwax, which is something that would have to be checked later. But essentially, what you would notice is that if he did have a lesion, let's say for instance, he had a unilateral lesions on the right side, he would have very poor, or he would be deaf or not deaf, but he would just have poor hearing on his right side compared to his left. And then also, with some lesions, he might have balance issues, but because he was sitting, I did not have to show that in this video. Okay, James. So I'm going to be just taking a look inside your mouth. I'm going to be making you gag a little bit. If you feel uncomfortable, just let me know, okay? So first of all, I need you to stick your tongue out. Good, good. Keep your tongue out now. Open your mouth wide. Push this, take this probe and just push your tongue down a little bit. Now you just say ah. Okay? I'm going to take this other probe and I'm just going to press against here. Okay, and press against here. Okay, you're good to go. So, what I was doing here is I was testing for 3 different cranial nerves: the vagus nerve, the glossopharyngeal nerve, and the hypoglossal nerve. With the hypoglossal nerve, I was testing for it, since it's a motor nerve, I was testing his tongue to see if there was any lesion. With his tongue, by sticking the tongue out, I could see if there's symmetry, and if there was a unilateral lesion, say for instance on our right side, the right side of the tongue would either be a lot weaker and it would be drooping, or it'd be bunched up because it'd be contracting a lot more than the left side. Next, I could keep his tongue out, and then I stuck a probe and depressed his tongue so I could see his uvula and his soft palate. With this, I would be able to test both the glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve. I would see if there was a unilateral lesion in either one of these, then the uvula would be moving contralaterally towards the non-affected side, because it would be pulled over by the non-affected side. So, for instance, if it was a right-sided lesion to the glossopharyngeal nerve, then the uvula would point towards the left side. I then further tested the vagus nerve by testing his gag reflex. I went against his throat and basically just elicited a gag reflex on both sides. And if there was a gag reflex elicited, then that would mean that the vagus nerve was intact. So if there was a right-sided unilateral lesion for his vagus nerve, and I pressed up against his throat, and he didn't gag, then that would indicate to me that there was a lesion at the vagus nerve. Okay, James, for this test, I'm going to be on your side, just kind of pushing down your shoulders, and I want you to bring your shoulders up, resisting against me. Okay? So go ahead and bring both shoulders up. Okay. Okay. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just bring both shoulders up. Ready? Okay, good. Okay, so for this test, I was testing for the spinal accessory nerve, which is a motor nerve. Basically, what I was doing is I was manual muscle testing each side, checking to see if there was any, if there was equal resistance or equal strength on both sides. I applied maximum, moderate, and minimal pressure just to ensure if he had any lesions, I would have put him in a gravity minimized position just to figure out what kind of grade he got. A unilateral lesion would present with just essentially weakness of the upper trap on that side. So, for instance, if he had a unilateral lesion on his right side, he might present with grade 2, where I'd have to put him on the side and check that right side upper trap in comparison to his left, where he would be able to resist, say, moderate to maximum amount of pressure and get a grade 4 or 5.